Hello, everybody. This is Geoff Arbuckle, co-host of Film Seizure, as well as the host of Film Seizure at the Movies and Monster Mondays. Monster Mondays you can catch every Monday afternoon. Film Seizure at the Movies catching a little bit more often because there's been a little bit more that I've gone to see, but you're here because you're probably mostly interested in Film Seizure, our native show that's on filmseizure.com. Well, right now we are, especially if you've been kind of paying attention lately, we have been on vacation for the summer. We are returning in September, but in the meantime, we're kind of releasing some of these best of episodes. Last week, we re-released the episode on Head, which is the Monkees movie from 1968. And this week, I have chosen another one of my favorite episodes that we've done, which is really, I should say, a little bit more about a favorite movie of mine from the late 90s, and that is The Mask of Zorro, starring Antonio Banderas, Catherine Zeta-Jones, and Anthony Hopkins. So this is another early one where it's just me and Jason. This is episode number 52, I believe. So we'd been doing this for a little while at this point, and getting a little bit more, I think getting a little bit better as we were going along. But this episode, like I said, it kind of covers one of my more favorite movies from the late 90s. This came out in the summer of 98. Saw the movie, absolutely fell in love with kind of the big action set pieces and the adventure of it all. So, I brought this to the show hoping that we would be able to, get a good conversation out of it. It had been a while since Jason had seen it, and he was every bit as much into it as I was, which was fantastic. So, again, another one of those episodes where I brought something to Jason that, he was pretty sure he would like or did like, but at the same time, had been removed from it for a little while. And it was always cool that, when we have those types of situations where, we both end up really, really liking something. So, that's what we have here. So we're going to continue to do these favorites and these best of episodes throughout the, summer while we prepare to return in September. Like I said, it's either going to be early September or mid-September, either which way, but we will be kind of hitting the ground running. We've got a lot of good ideas planned. We've got a lot of different types of episodes planned, or we're kind of talking through right now, and it should be fun. So we hope you are as excited about that as we are. But let's talk a little bit about what's coming up before we do that. So, on July 4th, Monday, July 4th, I will have a new episode of Monster Mondays, which will be technically the first episode of Kolchak the Night Stalker, which is called The Ripper. It's a pretty cool little episode. So I've got some TV monsters to talk about throughout the month of July. So hopefully, while you are getting ready to enjoy your 4th of July celebrations and your cookout with your family, everybody can sit around the old podcast machine and listen to me talk about Kolchak the Night Stalker. Also, coming up probably on Friday the 8th or so, I should have a review of Thor Love and Thunder coming. And probably before the end of the weekend, I will have hopefully another episode of Film Seizure at the Movies before July 4th, where I'll talk about The Black Phone and Beavis and Butthead Do the Universe. But I know for a fact that probably on Friday the 8th or Saturday the 9th, I will have a review out there for the new Thor movie. Hopefully that one is as good as the previews look. But let me get out of the way here so that you can listen to this best of episode for The Mask of Zorro. And just stay tuned to filmseizure.com. Follow us Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, so you know when we release something new or when we have one of these best of episodes to talk about. And then, hopefully you're sticking around for Monster Mondays and for Film Seizure at the Movies as well. But as always, we appreciate everybody who listens. We hope you enjoy listening to these episodes as much as we enjoy making them. So looking forward to talking to you again, and keep an eye out every Wednesday for the summer. We will have some sort of a best of episode that we will release, and we look forward to seeing you with new episodes this September. Enjoy. We just carved an F and an S onto the wall.
Or we sliced both of our clothes off, and now we're naked.
Yeah, now we're naked. No, our parents are coming in.
Oh, shoot.
Welcome to another episode of Film Seizure. I'm Geoff Arbuckle.
I am Jason Oliver.
And oh boy, do we have a good one.
We do.
It's a good movie.
Man.
I love this movie so much. This is The Mask of Zorro.
Yeah.
1998.
They should have called this a real warm blanket, because that's what it felt like.
Man, they just don't make movies like this anymore.
They really, truly don't.
We got a little swashbuckling.
Yep.
We got practical effects. We've got stunts. We've got...
Yeah, it feels like it feels sort of like a timeless Western pirate movie.
If this movie wasn't black and white, it would not have felt out of place.
Yeah. Yeah.
It definitely was trying to recapture that whole adventure. There was the Zorro. There was a Disney Zorro TV show back in the late 50s.
Yeah, which is kind of what I watched as a kid.
And it really kind of felt like that's what they were trying for. You know?
They got it. They nailed it.
Yeah.
And they really nailed a lot of just that old golden era of Hollywood sensibility.
Yeah.
But with an elevated, special effect budget, but practical special effects, which
there's lots of explosions.
The explosions in this are just magnificent.
Oh, we had a good laugh over one that we'll talk about a little bit later. No, I mean, you're right. This is kind of that golden age of Hollywood. We're going to a show. We're going to go and experience a stunt spectacular.
Yeah, absolutely. It is. It feels very much like that. It is just it surrounds the audience with its sort of bombast.
Yeah.
Right?
It also this is one of those things where it's like, you pointed this out, when you have a hero, he does a thing, and then he turns around, smiles, and admires the thing
he's done.
And that
admires his work.
Yeah, and it's like, man, movies, it's okay for your hero to smile.
Yeah.
And to enjoy what he's doing.
Yeah.
That might be part of his insanity, but that's fine. It doesn't matter. It's okay.
Antonio Banderas, this is his role. I mean, he is every ounce a movie star in this.
Oh yeah.
Like, as I'm watching this, you can see the charisma. I had to write it down just to make sure I didn't forget to say it, because he is equal parts Clark Gable and Errol Flynn in this movie.
Ooh, good call.
Like, he is the charisma of both, and he's just enjoying the hell out of this role.
Yeah. And even Anthony Hopkins is enjoying the hell out of this role. Like, I was reading a little bit about like the casting, because initially it was going to be Antonio Banderas and Sean Connery. And it took a little while for this movie to get to the big screen. In fact, Banderas was brought to the movie by Robert Rodriguez, who they had worked together in Desperado.
Yes.
Another one that we will someday talk about.
We're going to talk about.
Oh boy, that's a good one.
We both really love that
movie.
One. Yep.
So So when Connery dropped out for who knows what reason,
he was in his like kooky late middle age or early old age phase in the 90s.
Yeah, man.
He was making some weird choices.
Yes.
Yep.
So he dropped out, and apparently they went to Anthony Hopkins, who really, really wanted to do an action movie. You know, he was kind of tired of doing the dramas and stuff like that. He really wanted to do it. And you can kind of tell he really wanted to do an action movie.
Oh, yeah. He's got gusto in this.
Yeah. I mean, like, there's at one point in time, like, he's got, like, in the Zorro lair, the Zorro cave, you know, he's got, like, these rope things set up that he teaches how to, like, kind of swing around and stay, like, you know, on your feet and everything as you're fighting. And at one point in time, he's, like, leaving the cave, and he doesn't have to jump or swing on the ropes, but he does. And you could tell that was like an actor's job. That is not a stage direction. That was like, hey, I'm going to pass these ropes. Martin Campbell, do you mind if I go ahead and just take a swing? You know, he's enjoying the hell out of this.
Most definitely.
And he's playing such like a dour, like, you can tell he's having fun while still like very heavy focused on the revenge that he needs to get, you know. Mm-hmm. So a couple of reasons why I wanted to pick this movie for us to talk about. One, I love this movie. I love it. I mean, it is a fucking joy to watch.
Yes.
And we'll get into some of the makeup of what makes it such a joy to watch. And what kind of recaptures that kind of old school feeling of movies. But I love the way the movie's shot. Like, I love just the way the movie looks. Like, it looks like, you know, 1840s, like, you know, Spanish California or whatever. You know, it's there's kind of a dreamlike feel to it. Partially probably from the score too, which we're going to talk about.
Yes, you're right. It's sort of I especially noticed when they frame and shoot Catherine Zeta-Jones.
Yes,
there's almost kind of like a
they do a little soft focus.
Yeah, and there's a lot of soft focus in this movie, and it really does contribute to, I think, that timeless aspect of it.
Yeah.
I think that if you had lesser special effects and put this movie out 20 years earlier, people would have loved it just as much, but it wouldn't have felt modern. Right? It's just, I don't know, it just really captures a specific adventure feel that I think is prevalent through, you know, early Hollywood. Yeah.
I mean, this is it's the swashbuckling hero smiling all the way as he saves the day and helps the people and wins the girl
with a wink and a smile. Yeah, exactly.
And which is funny because it's like you know, we're framing it, making it sound like it's this old timey, out of place movie. You know, I mean, the girl is not easy to win herself,
right?
You know, even though she freely admits she likes this bandit,
right? Yeah.
You know, she
has a type.
Yes, she does. And when Antonio Banderas shows up with Sans bandit mask, you know, she doesn't know how to feel. It's almost like it's kind of like a Lois Lane Clark Kent.
Yeah.
Kind of like you're saying all the right things, but I kind of like the dangerous one.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
You're just a little too polished for me.
Right. Yeah. And you know, of course, he has to play up the nobleman, uppity guy. So he kind of has to put her down. He doesn't want to, and there's one scene, there's one really really good shot where he has to basically, they have their dance. And I mean, like, she just slicks the whole floor with this dance. And you know, and her dad, her quote unquote father, comes in, and you know, it's like, you know, my daughter is acting out of turn, basically, and he has to say something that pisses her off.
Yeah,
and then he like behind everybody's back, it's like he's like pissed at himself over that's good stuff. It's good stuff. He's got to keep her, you know, at arm's length so he can do his Zorro shit. Anyway,
it's a movie that really moves through its plotting, right? I mean, there's not a whole lot here that's necessarily new. A lot of adventure tropes, a lot of action tropes, a lot of...
And I think it borrowed from a bunch of Zorro novels,
Yeah,
too.
it would make sense.
Yeah.
And it has, honestly, it has sort of a very Shakespearean feel
Oh, yeah.
to some of the mistaken identity and the...
A little bit of, we talked about it, kind of Monte Cristo.
Right,
A
yeah.
little bit of Les Mis.
It definitely has that sort of classical literature feel. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and that's actually something I do want to bring up here in a little bit. But so this I'm going to say this a lot, but they don't make movies like this anymore. Like, they're so convoluted these days.
Yeah.
You know, this is a 2-hour and 17-minute movie that gets to the point while still telling its story, doesn't bog itself down with a bunch of extra plot lines.
Right. The villains have clear motivation. And
Even though technically you could make an argument that the villains, what they're doing isn't necessarily bad. It's the way they act.
right.
They're just bad guys.
Well, they're just greed. It's greed.
Yeah,
That they're just
exactly.
acting out of greed. They're not good. They're
just bad guys.
there's bad guys
Yeah.
who are greedy and are gonna get what they want by any means necessary.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they don't care the blood they spill, especially of the peasants.
Right. It's a very classist. Yeah.
Exactly.
Like the peasants aren't really viewed as
People
to them.
Right.
Yeah.
The basic plot is that you have this guy Montero, who is the governor of this area in California. Or no, he is the governor of California.
Yeah. Basically. Yeah.
And basically, the movie begins in 1821. Santa Anna has led the uprising to basically free Mexico from the Spain dominance, basically. And the governor basically gives all the Dons land so that he can just get out of town and avoid Santa Anna's rage, basically. The Dons continue running the place, but before he leaves, he has to take care of that pesky Zorro, who is the original Zorro, Don De La Vega. He is one of the upperclassmen, but he fights for the people. It's Anthony Hopkins in this movie.
Yes.
And he basically, there's he loves De La Vega's woman, and they have a daughter. So when he figures out that De La Vega is Zorro, he basically enacts some revenge on that whole situation, accidentally kills De La Vega's wife.
Yeah. One of his minions accidentally shoots her.
Yes.
And of course, what does the villain do?
Stabs his minion.
Kills his minion. Yep. Very
Runs him
classic. Runs him right through.
And
Which we saw, incidentally, in Martin Campbell's previous movie,
Goldeneye. Yep. Happened a few times in Goldeneye.
A few times in Goldeneye. Yep.
So then he takes the daughter, burns down the house, and throws De La Vega in prison for being Zorro, for being basically a rebel.
Speaking of Anthony Hopkins as Zorro, so can you imagine? You're Anthony Hopkins, right? 60 years old, and you want to do an action movie,
Yeah.
and you get offered the role of fucking Zorro.
Yeah. Right out of the gate. You didn't work your way up to it.
It's like, wait, you want me to play Zorro? How's that going to
Right.
work? First of all, you're probably thinking, fuck yes. Then you're thinking, how's that going to work?
Yeah.
And then you read the script, you're like, oh, okay.
That's how that's going to
Yeah.
work. I like it. So anyway, 20 years pass. Now Anthony Hopkins finds out that Montero has returned to California. We don't know why yet. And he breaks out of prison, comes across, finds out that his daughter, the daughter that Montero
kidnapped.
is here now too, which is Catherine Zeta-Jones, and she will stop anybody dead in their tracks when she shows up anywhere.
She's
in this movie,
ravishing. I mean, what a beauty! Holy moly!
Yeah. So
that long black hair.
yeah,
Oh
yeah,
gosh.
yeah.
Golly geez.
Golly geez. She sure is purdy,
She's
boy howdy.
so purdy in this movie.
So anyway, he comes across Antonio Banderas, who is a just an outlaw, just kind of a worthless outlaw, really. I mean, he's kind of a petty thief.
Yeah, he's in a gang.
Yeah, with his brother
and Three Finger Jack.
Yeah. This Captain Love guy, who is a ranger or something.
He's something like that. U.S. Ranger or something.
Yeah,
he's military in some way.
Yeah.
He's got this stupid long blonde hair and blonde beard. Yeah, he's a goofy
dummy.
looking. I kept calling him like a shitty Kenneth Branagh.
Yeah,
because that's what he looks like.
Kenneth Branagh.
Dime store Kenneth Branagh. Yeah.
And then so he, he's killed Antonio Banderas' brother. He thinks he's killed Three Finger Jack. So he's wanting revenge too. So they kind of, he and Anthony Hopkins just kind of serendipitously find each other.
Yeah.
And Anthony Hopkins trains the new Zorro.
Yeah, pretty much. He's like, you want revenge? I want revenge.
There's your movie.
We can help each other.
Yeah, and there's your movie.
Let's get revenge.
And so they both get their revenge. The bad guy's plot primarily is we found gold in this cave, and we've got these slaves and these various kids, basically mining this gold. We are going to take the gold, and we're going to buy California from Santa Anna because
with his own gold.
But he doesn't know it's there. Right. They're going to stamp it to make it look like it comes from the government of Spain.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is we're going to basically set up our own third world country where we'll just continue to be rich and everybody else will work for us. Basically.
Yeah, but the whole plot there is a little like...
Well, it makes sense because Santa Anna is about to take on the Americans. So the Spanish-American War is about to begin.
Yeah.
And wait, is that what it's called?
Is that right?
Is that what it is?
Anyway,
I'm
shitty with history.
Santa Anna is about to go to war with the United States, and he needs money for war business. And so Montero decides, well, we've got this gold. We'll just make it look like it comes from Spain. We'll have the ability to say we are buying this from you, and we'll just set up our own Republic of California.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been the Spanish-American War. That came after the Civil War. That was in 1898.
Oh, okay. So it's whatever. I mean, basically, it's what ended up coming to a head at the Alamo.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken.
I think so.
Because Alamo, I think it was 1847, 46, 47, something like that. Anyway.
That would make sense. He died, Antonio Lopez de Santa Anna died in 1876.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But he won some battles in Texas before doing so.
Yeah, he fought to defend Royalist New Spain and then for Mexican independence.
Yep. So that's all tied in here. But anyway, basically the bad guys, like you said, is greed. They're wanting to set up their own country kind of independent of everybody. And basically we're going to just keep riding the backs of the lower class, essentially. So, there's your movie. Now, pretty simple. And you think, how do they get 2 hours and 17 minutes? Well, they had these things 20 years ago called writers who could create things that are called plots and characters and things that happen in movies. And so it's not just a bunch of CGI business. It's an actual movie. There's all sorts of stuff we're going to be able to talk about.
Yeah, I'm gonna probably. I know. There's some things you want to.
Hey, lay it on me.
I was really taken by Antonio Banderas' performance in this.
Yeah,
Antonio
blast.
Banderas has always been a very expressive actor.
Yes, he's very over the top.
But this movie, he hits all the right beats.
Yep.
He plays this movie with a comedian's timing.
Yeah.
And it's impeccable.
He's winking at the camera practically.
Yeah.
But appropriately.
But like he'll do something and a camera will be on him. You'll see the action, the camera will go to him and he'll make a like a herky jerky face or
Yeah.
a expression, an
Or he'll
admiration,
throw in a line.
or throwing a line. But it's all just so him in building this character. It just feels like a fully formed character. And man, isn't that just refreshing?
Yeah, it's not a you have to do this because all the Zorro fanboys expect you to do this.
Right.
You know.
The talkbacks. We got to be careful about the talkbacks.
Yeah.
No, I mean he's just it's a role of a lifetime for him.
Oh, surely.
And
this pretty much solidified him as a leading man. And I think it probably helped him get comedic stuff too. I mean, obviously, this is going to sound weird, but obviously this role helped him be Puss in Boots in the Shrek movies.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
And there's even a part in this movie in which he is a cartoon.
Yes.
So let's talk about that as one of my favorite, a scene that
this is the best scene in the movie.
Yeah. So this is his first outing essentially as Zorro.
It is. Yeah.
He's not in full black, but he's put on the mask or a mask that he's made himself.
Uh-huh.
And his plan is Zorro always has a black steed that he rides on. So he finds this kind of this wild black steed that's being brought in basically into the barracks for Montero. And so he decides he's going to go steal it. And he's going to and so basically he puts on the mask. He already fucks up before he even gets into the stable because instantly Catherine Zeta-Jones finds him. And so they have like a little moment there. And so that's kind of cute and, a little flirty. And so then he gets in and he's going to take the horse, but the horse is too wild. And the horse constantly fucks him over throughout this movie. But so essentially he gets found out by the entire stable guard.
It's basically a military barrack.
Right.
Yeah.
He gets into this barracks and he's surrounded by all these guards. And so it becomes a cartoon. Like he's got to take each one on one by one. He's got to figure out how to get out of this. Uh-huh. He gets attacked by a gigantic guard who gets bossed around by the littlest guard.
Yeah, which I always love that.
Yeah, I love that.
I love that. That's a classic, just comedy action trope.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, he gets tossed into this place where he's got where there's a cannon and there's these little cannonballs. And he's bashing the guy in the head with the cannonballs.
Yeah.
And he eventually knocks the guy out.
Oh,
a bunch of his teeth.
He spits all his teeth out. Yeah. Because it doesn't feel like he's actually making progress.
Right.
At first. It's like, holy crap, he's bashing this guy's face in.
And then he eventually turns around, spits all his teeth out and collapses. And then the guy collapses and all the guards look up and there's now Antonio Banderas behind the cannon like Bugs Bunny with a torch.
He pulls the torch up too.
He pulls the torch up.
He's not. It first shows with his arm down. He's and it gives him a look that just kills me. It's this look. It's this look of I gotcha.
So he pulls up the cannon and then he lights the cannon and it
fires a cannonball. Yep.
Cannonball. But there's also a bunch of the gunpowder, around the floor, and he drops the torch and it starts the gunpowder and he tries to take the barrel, but there's a hole in the barrel, so it's following him.
Following him like a wick. Yeah.
But he blows that fucking place all to shit.
It is. It's a huge explosion. And I make the comment, I was like, holy shit, all he went to do was to steal a horse. And he ended up blowing up the biggest building in town.
And then he goes off running, and this is my favorite part of this whole scene. So he goes taking off running, and he goes to the cathedral in town, and the Padre's there, and he's like, I need sanctuary.
Yeah.
And it's like, hide me. So he throws him in the confessional. And Catherine Zeta-Jones comes in to confess that she had impure thoughts about him.
About a bandit. Yeah.
And so she's talking, and it's a real nice and quiet scene. But in the background, you hear all of the explosions going. The place continuously is blowing up, and like all the chaos that he's created is just now background noise.
Yep. Background noise to a man in church.
Yes. Oh, that's delightful.
Yes, delightful. It's the word I used as well. Just delightful. And
there's another big explosion at the end. So once the bad guys realize that, we've got a Zorro problem, as you would say back in 1841, we've got a Zorro problem.
Yes.
They decide, well, we can't let Santa Ana find out about this, so we're going to blow up the mine. But what about all of our workers? Well, we're going to get rid of them too. So they basically set up the whole mine to explode. They basically blow up a gigantic chunk.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was California or Mexico. Might have been both of them. They blew it to shit.
Yeah, I don't
like
think
it was the biggest explosion I've ever seen.
It's a huge explosion. I don't think it's models, man. It is a massive explosion.
Like if there would have been a mushroom cloud and it wiped out the like towns in a 50-mile radius, I would have believed it. Yeah. So I mean, it's just stuff like that that's just so nice. It's just so nice that they have real explosions, and I'm pretty sure it wasn't like most of the time your eye can picture if it's a miniature or not when something explodes, because like the explosion here, like there were 2x4s being launched into the fucking air. I'm pretty sure that was like a real side of a mountain they exploded.
Yeah. It probably was like a mine or something.
Might have been a real mine.
That they just had permission to blow to hell.
Yeah, we're going to blow this up anyway, so might as well take it out for us. It's what were some of the other things that you wanted to mention about your enjoyment of this movie before I launch into some of my notes that I took several days ago?
Well, one thing that I want to mention, because it's something that is a personal quirk of mine, is at the very beginning of this movie there is a card before the movie starts of a ton of expository text, right?
Basically setting the scene.
This is where you're at in history and what's going on and who the characters are, and it's like, whoa, that's overwhelming for me. I always get anxious because here's the problem. I never know if I'm going to have enough time to read it, so I try to read it really fast.
And then you miss it.
And then I realized that I didn't read it carefully enough and I didn't retain anything that I read. And then by the time I have to go back to try and read it again, I don't have enough time. So Geoff had to kind of get me up to speed.
Yeah.
In the first 5 to 10 minutes of what actually the hell is going on. But it's a problem I've had forever. That's why I love when they do that type of opening to a movie, when they do it in little chunks.
Oh yeah.
You know, they give you maybe a sentence or two and it sets the tone for how much time the text is going to be on screen. So then you kind of know, all right, this is how much time I have to read each thing, and it's just little chunks.
I bet you liked it when they did that for Solo.
Yes.
When they explain this is what they're after, this is the stuff they produce.
Yeah.
Here's where we are.
Yeah.
And it kind of gave it to you in pieces.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
But anyway,
yeah,
that's just a quirk of mine. I mean, I don't know. I just really like the movie. It's just action adventure, like you said, that you just don't get anymore. I've been racking my brain trying to come up with a movie in recent years that really is like this, and I can't do it.
The funny thing is, and this goes into something I'm going to talk a little bit more about in just a few minutes, but there was an Indiana Jones movie released since this movie came out.
Yeah.
That feels less like an Indiana Jones movie than this movie feels like an Indiana Jones movie. And a lot of that has to do with the way it was shot.
Yeah.
The amount of impractical effects that they use, the amount of, we are clearly on a set compared to, they found this really cool area to film in.
Yeah, and that's not to say that Zorro didn't have its fair share of sets, but they
use their scenery really well.
Yeah, and it also just sort of felt in place for that type of movie.
Sure.
Like if you watch an old Errol Flynn movie.
Oh, the very end when he's walking off into the obviously fake sunset.
Right. Yeah.
It doesn't matter that it's fake. It's
right.
perfect.
I think where the issue is that would have been green screen, and in the newest Indiana Jones movie, right?
The entire
in Zorro, it's a matte painting.
Yeah.
And even though your brain knows it's fake,
it still fits.
It feels more real.
Yeah.
Right? Well, because it's a tangible thing. It's not pixels.
Remember, it begins and ends with a fairy tale being told. Mm-hmm. The exploits of Zorro. It almost fits that more than anything.
Absolutely.
Whereas the beginning gets interrupted by some heavy shit, the end gets to have its heroic walk off into the sunset.
And I would say that even though they were a little more heavy on the special effects, the first two Mummy movies felt a lot more like this.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And the first Mummy was only a year after this, so it fits.
I do like those first two Mummy movies.
Yeah.
And a lot of why I like those is the same for why I like this movie so much. It has that grand old movie feel.
Yeah.
Where it's like, we're in it for an adventure, not an action movie. Mm-hmm. There's a difference between action and adventure. The adventure is like it's like a difference between when you write in cursive, it's like action, you just write your name, right? And you just write it in cursive. Adventure gives a little curl to the end. It's like a little flourish. It's got a little more, and certainly when you have swashbuckling, you have lots of flourish. And that's sometimes just so nice. It's just so nice to see a very simplistic adventure movie. Mm-hmm. And while still having all those flourish.
And I think there's a bit of prestige that comes along with it being a period piece too.
Yeah, that helps.
Yeah, that is sort of the kind of thing that makes it feel timeless, right?
Yeah.
It's because it's a story told a century ago, right?
Or 2 centuries ago now.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's the beginning of this movie is almost 200 years ago.
1820s, yeah.
And it's you see people in period clothing, and it's the dandy kind of outfits of the upper class and the rags practically of the lower class. It sets that stage for you. Your brain doesn't have to be thinking about the stage it's setting; it's being set for you.
Yeah.
So,
and nothing is too serious.
No, this isn't a doomsday weapon that's going to destroy the whole world.
right.
In 1821,
the stakes aren't everything.
Right. It's the people that this will affect. Mm-hmm. It's they keep Zorro the hero of the people, not the hero of the world. Like, the rest of the world doesn't care what Zorro's doing, even if it gets out to the rest of the world.
Yeah, and I think even the first Pirates of the Caribbean captured this as well.
Yeah.
And that was 2003. I'm really struggling to find something, though, in the last 10 years that matches this type of movie.
No, we've kind of moved away from innocence like that. Like, even if they're innocent themes being told, like, the comic book movies are still doing bad guy versus good guy, right?
Right.
But it's got to be more complex. It can't just be a simple story about this group of people that are being oppressed and a hero of the people.
In a way, the newest Jumanji,
I haven't watched that yet.
It makes its best effort to be this kind of movie. It's obviously special effects, CGI,
sure, but
heavy, but it definitely tries to kind of create that action adventure tone without an overly complex plot.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to challenge Hollywood, because I know they're listening.
Yeah,
Hollywood, I know you're listening. I challenge you to make more movies like this, even because this movie was not financially successful as it could have been.
Oh, really?
But it became successful at home. It was a home movie. Like I remember when this came out on video.
Well,
it was massively.
Yeah, this hit right around the time of DVD.
Yeah,
making its debut as well.
And DVD, it sold well, and it rented well on VHS. It did make enough money. I don't think it was a rental for. I think you could buy it when it first came out.
I think so too.
But this movie cost like $90 million. Only made like 120 something.
It did better than you think.
Really?
Yeah. 95 was the budget, and it made 250.
Oh wow,
so that's pretty successful.
Wait, worldwide?
I don't know. This just says box office. It doesn't say worldwide. I imagine that was mostly domestic, though. Movies like this didn't go worldwide very often.
Maybe. Yeah, for some reason I thought it was because it did come out in a really busy summer. It came out the same summer as like Saving Private Ryan and other movies that I can't think of right now. But it came out in a little bit of a crowded summer.
This is fun. Roger Ebert exceeded his expectations. He was surprised by the screenplay's display of traditional film craftsmanship.
Yeah.
Quote, "It's a reminder of the time when stunts and special effects were integrated into stories rather than the other way around."
Yeah.
That's a really succinct way of putting this, the way I feel about this movie.
That is exactly right. And I think that's what always resonated with me. I mean, I still remember going to the theater and seeing this 20 years ago. I mean, like, I was wowed by this movie. So it was just a swell movie. I mean, that seems like a G shucks kind of way of putting it, but that's really what it is. It makes you feel kind of makes you feel young watching it.
Yep.
It's very simplistic, very innocent, but very well made.
Okay, you have vindication here. It did not earn its money back in the U.S.
Oh.
It made about $94 million in the U.S. and then $150 million internationally.
Yeah.
So it did have a very good international.
Yeah, it probably played. I bet it played well in Mexico, and it probably played well in Spain, Portugal.
Yeah, I'm sure it did.
Yeah.
So yeah, interesting. It just about broke even domestically.
I could see this playing well in the UK.
Yeah.
Just because I think the UK. Well, I mean, you have Martin Campbell already, and then Anthony Hopkins, but this seems like something that the UK would have still appreciated.
It came up. You were talking about that summer. It came up against Saving Private Ryan and There's Something About Mary.
Yeah, that's rough.
Yep.
That's a rough draw, man.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, this is a summer movie, but
yep,
you're coming up against. I mean, people talk about constantly how like big movies flop all the time. Yeah, look at what's happening now. Like, look at how congested every month of every year is now with movies.
Oh, yeah. I imagine that all the big studio bosses get together in a room, smoking cigars and drinking bourbon, and hash out the calendar. Mm-hmm. And there's probably at least one person who gets stabbed to death by the end of the meeting.
Yeah.
Because they won't move off of a specific date. But that's what I kind of imagine. I imagine it's a cartel of, all right, what movies will we open on what weekends?
And right now Disney's got the biggest dick in the room. It's like, okay, well, we got to wait and see what they take, and then we take the rest.
Right.
Universal probably comes in next, and then it's these. Well, I mean, Universal can kind of swing a little weight around because of Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
It's
certainly
like we knocked off the Avengers.
I kind of feel like I don't understand those movies. Yeah, I know you wrote about Jurassic
World
2.
It's complicated, man.
Yeah, it's
a complicated world.
It's not a good movie, and they were going to make more of these movies, and I don't understand how they have to make these increasingly convoluted plots to justify the existence of these movies, and it's not fun anymore.
Guess what? We just like watching dinosaurs stomp around. Guess what's going to make a bunch of money this summer?
I hope Godzilla does. Yeah. But I hope that they don't start finding themselves in the same trap.
You just need, hey, guess what? One monster wakes up, the other one wakes up. That's how that last one
started. Because I already kind of felt like not the first Godzilla, the most recent Godzilla, with Walter White was already a little unnecessarily convoluted.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's the great balancing act with Godzilla is trying to figure out how much does the humans need to play into it versus how much can we show the monsters without paying any attention to the humans.
Well,
right?
in a lot of ways, it's as much as I love them, it's the Nolan Batman movies who are to blame for all of this shit.
Yeah, because
they took a superhero franchise rooted in reality, right, and made everything tick according to realism.
Yeah.
And everybody then took that model and started applying it to everything else. When in reality, now we don't have movies like Zorro anymore.
Right.
Because everyone's afraid to just make a fucking fun movie.
Right. Because they're afraid of some jackass getting on the internet and shitting on it.
In some ways,
because they can't have fun in their movies.
In some ways, the reason I think the Fast and Furious movies are so successful is because they while they do get increasingly convoluted, they are willing enough to have fun.
Yeah. It's like, oh, by the way, here are the Avengers, as long as those Avengers get in the car.
Yeah.
Because once they're in a car, they're fucking superheroes.
Yeah.
There's nothing they can't do with a car.
Yeah.
Even shit that can't be done in
right.
cars.
Right. Yeah. So yes, you're right. Those are kind of taking it to the hyper realism.
Right.
Right. And then you've got the Mission Impossible movies, which I feel like are more like Bond movies from the golden age of Bond.
Yeah.
Than the new Bond movies are. Right. Because the new Bond movies are doing the Christopher Nolan thing.
Kind of.
Which isn't necessarily a terrible thing. I really like 2 out of 4 of them. But still, again, maybe we need to return to some of the glory of the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, I mean, maybe sometimes the bad guy just has a big gun and a helicopter. Mm-hmm. And he's just willing to
and a maniacal laugh.
A maniacal laugh. Yeah. Maybe sometimes it's just Willem Dafoe.
No explanation needed.
Willem Dafoe was in Aquaman.
Was he really?
He was. As was Dolph Lundgren.
I'll watch it eventually on TV, I'm sure.
Man, you're going to have to watch it in parts. It overstays its welcome.
I think
this movie does not overstay
I think it took me 3 weeks to watch Justice League, so I know how that goes.
Yeah. So I'm going to talk a little bit. I got some notes here, some stuffs that I would like to talk about here. So first and foremost, this movie came out summer of '98. I was seeing a bunch of movies of all different kinds of stuff. I was dating a lady who liked to go to movies, and we just did. We saw pretty much everything.
I think I saw everything in the theaters from like 98 to almost 2000.
Let's put it this way, there were few things I didn't go see in the movies that year, or at least that summer. The one thing, the summer began that year, or like in early May, with that Liam Neeson, Jeffrey Rush, Les Mis.
Oh yeah,
which
I really like. It's still my favorite version. I like that. Of Les Mis.
And that really kind of plays into some of what they borrowed from this. And I'm gonna get to that here momentarily too. But this movie, not to get kind of mushy, but it's a really romantic movie. I mean, if you take your date to this, you guys are having a good time. There's something for both of you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got the score, it's got action, it's got good characters. We've talked about it. It's just how it all kind of comes together.
There's an undeniable chemistry between Banderas and Catherine Zeta-Jones, as
well as take any two characters and their chemistry works for whatever those characters are supposed to be.
Yeah.
Like there's chemistry, there's adversarial chemistry between the American Army guy and Banderas. There's a great scene with Catherine Zeta-Jones and Anthony Hopkins where the clues are there to figure out that that's her real dad.
Right.
But yet, he plays it off. He tries to keep that subject away, and
Well, he doesn't have the juice to tell her.
Right, he can't.
She won't believe him.
Right. At this point in time, he doesn't have the evidence.
Right.
And then you have I mentioned the score. So we got James Horner.
Yep.
So James Horner, while not my favorite film composer, has written scores that I positively love.
Me too.
Star Trek 2 and 3, no doy. Talk about some of the heaviest, just music that sets the tone for what you're supposed to be feeling at that exact moment that you're supposed to be feeling it. And then this movie, he had just won the Oscar for Titanic when this movie came out, a few months after this, or a few months before this movie came out. So, he was kind of riding high. I do understand that, he does not always have the greatest of reputation in his career because he constantly borrowed from himself.
Yeah.
And some people thought that was a little lazy. There are times that he even he borrowed the main beats of the Star Trek themes from another that he did. Plus, it was reused again for a Roger Corman movie. So there's all sorts of
well, that's the true Roger Corman style. Maybe he just picked that up from Roger.
Well, I think what he got, I think what it was that Roger Corman was like, we got some other takes of this music that I can use for this action, the space movie. My guess is that because it sounds like the Star Trek 2 theme in maybe a minor key as opposed to the key that it was eventually done in. Maybe it's a little slower. It's a little more like a dirge almost. Yeah. But anyway.
Well, I mean, his best score for Cameron, in my opinion, is Aliens.
Well, yeah.
I mean, that score is insanely good.
I think that was one of his Oscar nominations.
He did the score for Glory, which is
that's an Oscar
beautiful.
Yeah.
And then The Rocketeer's underrated in every way.
Yeah.
Field of Dreams, which I also love. Like, that has just this quiet beauty to it, that score. But his all-time best, maybe my favorite score of all time, is Sneakers.
Oh, I was going to say Titanic.
Sneakers. Sneakers, man, we're fucking doing that for the podcast sometime. Because that movie is like, I think it's burrowed into my soul. From when I had the poster on my wall as a kid. That is like, oh, it's so good.
Yeah. Well, the thing is with this movie also, this kind of comes at I even drew a little triangle here to kind of help illustrate my point. This came at like a really important crossroads in my life. I had kind of gotten to the height of what I was going to know about movies. And if I ever was going to make movies, what types of movies I wanted to make. That with, like kind of the sensibilities that I had at that age, the stuff that I had grown up with. I mean, again, we hadn't gotten to the more darker type of action and the big, everything is at stake if one hero man doesn't do this thing at this moment. We hadn't gotten to that kind of style of storytelling yet. So, this type of movie kind of hit that perfect sensibility at that time, the stuff that I liked. Probably, despite my love for Star Trek 2 or for Empire Strikes Back or for, the first Superman movie or the second Superman movie for that matter. When I was young, probably the first favorite movie of mine was Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah.
And this hit a lot of those notes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it, that old style action kind of matinee serial style. But, this kind of brought the music of a movie, the action composition. We've talked about that already where, it's just got these wonderful little beats that this movie hits every time in an action movie. There isn't a moment that isn't purposeful. Every lunge of the sword is purposeful. Every flip and jump that's done is purposeful. I mean, hell, at one point he's knocking off guys on horses,
right?
Going horse to horse, knocking the guy off.
He's like a trick horse rider. Yeah.
It's amazing. And then just the scenery, like I said.
That's a classic of the old westerns. You know,
that's stuff that that's the stuff that my mom was going to see at the matinee and watching on TV in the earliest days that she can remember, sitting around on Saturday, stuff that she still likes watching.
It's kind of like a Roy Rogers kind of stuff. Yeah.
Kind of. Yeah. But it's just this perfect triangle of like the music, the composition of the action of the fun that everybody seems to be having, the scenery. These were all things that really, really registered for me. And I've been kind of thinking about this movie for about the last week or so, just because it's like I knew we were going to talk about it, I knew we were going to watch it, and I used to watch it all the time when it first came out on VHS. It's like I watched the fuck out of this movie because it's a fun movie to watch. Yeah. It's you said it's kind of like a cozy blanket. Yeah, it kind of is. Shit, I might put it on when I'm going to bed tonight.
Right, it's a good time.
Yeah, yeah. But I was thinking about this movie, and I was thinking about like, I'd already mentioned that, it's like earlier that summer, Les Mis came out. This has a lot of that kind of storyline, that revenge kind of storyline in there. Yep. It's also got the Count of Monte Cristo in there. I think
most definitely
around that time there was a Count of Monte Cristo TV miniseries, I believe, on A&E or one of those channels. That my mom really liked, and I remember watching it too and thinking, that's pretty good. This is interesting. That seemed to be around that time. And and I was thinking, it's like, what was it simply that we were not gotten to the more complicated movies yet, where it was all over the top, the world's going to end, and we hadn't gotten to that yet? Was that where we were sensibility wise?
Well, hell, we had a legit Three Musketeers movie come out that year. Man in the Iron Mask.
There was Man in the Iron Mask. The other Three Musketeers came out earlier in the 90s.
Yep.
Also, another thing I thought of was like, were we just more impressed with these types of epics? Because I would call this an epic, the way that it's made, even though it's not 3 hours long. But like, think about the 90s. It's like Dances with Wolves. You had Titanic. You had English Patient. You had all of these 3 hour movies. Like, name a movie that Kevin Costner made in the 90s that wasn't at least 2 hours and 15 minutes. Even 10 fucking Cup was over 2 hours.
Oh shit! Even not a Kevin Costner movie, but another James Horner score, Braveheart, 95, right? I think.
Yeah, that's a 3 hour. So the Oscar winners were epics at that, almost calling back to a time like from the 30s, 40s through the 60s, where 3 hour movies were not uncommon. Now it's, 2 hour, 30-minute just CGI just thrown at you.
Mm-hmm. There was kind of a weird thing that happened in 98 on the action side of things. You had two huge, very different World War II movies in Saving Private Ryan, and Spielberg's Saving Private Ryan, and Terrence Malick's Thin Red Line. Yeah. And you had two thematically very different disaster movies.
Titanic.
Armageddon and Deep Impact.
Oh, okay.
And both very heavy special effects films, like big time special effects. Not a whole lot of practical effects happening in those movies.
No.
And even so, to some degree with the war movies, but it's like I think the late 90s almost don't have an identity.
Yeah.
It's part of it is clinging to the old. Part of it is reconnecting with the disaster film. Part of it is re-examining the greatest war ever fought. And then it's also the birth in some ways of like a new rebirth of raunchy comedy.
Yeah.
Right? It's weird. It's kind of a strange moment in time.
Here's one of the things that I thought. So I had mentioned, like, you have Mask of
Oscar
Zorro.
controversy that year with Shakespeare in Love.
Yep.
It's a crazy year.
Well, so, I had mentioned The Count of Monte Cristo. We're talking about The Mask of Zorro.
Mm-hmm.
And we had Les Mis just 2 months before Mask of Zorro.
Yeah.
Okay, so all of these things are about good people being kind of felled by somebody who is acting almost, or at least some people would view as being obsessive about that. And I kind of got to thinking about this, and it's like, one of the great things about being on the internet is that sometimes you can come off sounding like a conspiracy theorist. Now, we talked a couple of weeks ago about how much I don't like conspiracy theorists, but I also kind of sometimes like to play this kind of game.
Yeah.
So, I was thinking about this, and it's like all these pieces were coming together because I was thinking about, it's like, well, what was I doing in the late 90s, What kind of person was I? What was the zeitgeist? What was going on in the world? And it's like, okay, when we had these 3 movies that all are about, somebody being felled, by somebody who is kind of taken on a persona of being the bad guy. And it's like, I don't know if this was the intention, but what happened in 98? What happened in the world in 98? What happened in this country in 1998?
Was 98 the Oklahoma City bombing?
No.
When was that?
It's not that kind of.
What happened in this country in 1998? The Clinton impeachment? Yeah.
Somebody who was considered heroic.
This is a pretty good conspiracy theory. Yeah.
By somebody who's historically considered obsessive about it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it just so happened to be the zeitgeist or if it was some connection of, well, we've got these, it's like throughout history, these kind of stories existed, and this is the time where we're seeing it happen in some sort of real life way, and it just kind of crept into the zeitgeist.
I think that's exactly right. I think it
may not have been a conscious decision.
The zeitgeist is a living, breathing thing, and it's informed by everything around it, and it's not surprising that those were the kinds of movies that we were getting.
Yeah, I mean, even Man in the Iron Mask is kind of a revenge movie.
Yeah,
it's a bad guy just seemingly doing bad things,
Oh man, we got the bad Godzilla that year too.
I don't want. That has nothing to do with this. That you're only bringing that up because I'm a Godzilla fan, and I don't want to talk about that Godzilla. That's the only Godzilla movie I don't own in some way, shape, or form.
Well, I mean, is it really a Godzilla movie?
Nope, it's a Zilla movie. By the way, Zilla does appear in Godzilla Final Wars and gets his ass handed to him in like 30 seconds.
That's
fantastic.
That's funny. Yeah.
He gets thrown into the Sydney Opera House and then blasted. Yeah.
Take that, Zilla.
Yeah. It's like, yeah. But no, I mean, I was thinking about it, and it's like, at first I thought, am I crazy thinking that? It's kind of a conspiracy theory, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of. But it's culture, though. It's
kind of that zeitgeisty kind of
culture,
thing.
A culture of convergence, right?
Right. I mean, it's like, why are there a lot of TV shows or movies seemingly kind of falling over themselves to try to have some sort of
generally
I don't mean this in a negative way, but have some sort of powerful female character, whether it's earned by the way of plot or just lines that make her feisty or something. Why is that all over the place? Well, because the zeitgeist informs that to happen.
Generally speaking, the arts are a reflection of the time we live in.
Yeah.
And it's always the way it's always been.
Right. And, I mean, buckle up, everybody, because we're about to have a whole bunch of treacherous president movies.
I hope.
I mean, and that's just the way it's going to be.
I just hope we get more and more subtextual horror. I mean, we've gotten a lot recently, and I want more of that.
Yeah.
I mean, horror films are generally how we cope with the shitty stuff happening in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. I prefer mine to be a little more guy in mask, you know, killing people somewhat poetically, I guess, or karmically. Karmaically.
And I think that's an interesting point. And we'll talk, I think, in a few weeks about our best of 2018. And not to go too far off the tracks here, but yeah, there were some movies I really liked in 2018 that I watched again. Some I liked more the second time, some I didn't. And
I think we talked about one you liked more the second time around.
And it's one of the ones I didn't like as much second time around isn't because it isn't a great, perfectly well crafted and intelligent movie. It's because I didn't like how I felt watching it. It made me feel. It probably was a little too effective. It was a horror film. And it's a little psychological. It's Hereditary.
Oh,
and
yeah, I haven't watched that.
And knowing what was coming made that movie even more horrific for me, and not in a way that I think I liked.
Okay.
So I get what you're kind of saying about that fun horror. You can have subtextual horror that kind of wears that stuff on its sleeve.
Right.
Right. Even to some degree, you look at something like Night of the Living Dead.
Sure.
Right, which is heavily a product of its time.
Yeah, absolutely.
But is a very fun watch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and you know, that's what I think that when we kind of drive it back to Mask of Zorro, it's like you have all the right things that you feel like you should be rooting for. That bad guy is a dickwad.
Yeah.
And he just deserves to be run through and then have a cart of gold dumped on him.
Yeah, there's not going to be anyone on the internet complaining about how Netflix describes his villainry.
Right?
Right?
I even posted on Facebook about how dumb that was.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it's, you know, that guy is a prick. And he seemingly likes our hero's lady friend. He deserves to be run through and have a cart of gold dumped on him.
A cart of gold dumped on him.
The other guy...
A classic Martin Campbell trope, apparently, in 90s
just
action.
Just a terrible way of falling to your death.
Defenestration and falling to your death, and then having things fall on top of you after you've fallen.
Right. Then you have other main bad guy. You have main bad guy who seems pathetic in the sense of he loved Anthony Hopkins' lady, you know, wife, so much so that, well, he can't have her. He'll just take the baby,
right,
and raise her
and pretend his entire life that he had this child with the woman that rejected him.
I don't care.
That is just
next level, man.
That's pitiful.
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't care. I don't care what you think. I don't care. Okay. If you're listening and you yourself have done this, I'm sorry, but you're pathetic.
Yeah, you need help.
Everybody thinks thinks that.
Please seek help.
Yeah, everybody thinks you're pathetic, buddy. Stop doing it.
But go get help.
And go get help. Because there might be an opportunity for you to fix all of this. I mean,
but probably not.
But probably not. You're going to be on top of the cart of gold.
Because you've murdered someone, kidnapped a baby, and imprisoned the baby's father. So, yeah, you probably should be in jail.
Yeah, you probably should. Now, but more than likely what's going to happen is you're going to be hooked to the cart full of gold. And as you are careening over the edge and the one prick getting all the gold dump on him, you're just going to be flung to a horrible death traveling down a canyon.
Yeah.
And it's fine.
That's going to happen.
That's going to happen.
Just prepare yourself for that. That is the consequence
of your actions.
Of your actions, of evil deeds.
Yep. Evil deeds beget horrible ways of death.
So that's you. All right. So you bring up an interesting point again. I think there's something to be said for a well thought out, complex villain. There are movies that have those that are very enjoyable.
Sure.
But those are generally more of like the thriller variety, psychological thriller.
Right. Like, I don't think anybody's going to argue that Hannibal Lecter is not one of the greatest villains of all time. I mean, he's so well conceived.
When you try to take a character like that, like even I think of maybe one of the most perfect action adventure villains ever crafted, Hans Gruber.
Yeah,
right.
Sure.
Right. You know, put him in a psychological thriller, and he's a cartoon character.
Yeah.
But put Hannibal Lecter in Mask of Zorro, and it's jarring.
It's a whole different movie.
It doesn't work.
Your tones are now all off.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so there's a place for everything.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah. But there's also room for lighthearted.
Yeah.
I mean, this plot is thin, but it doesn't not make sense.
Right.
There's still purpose to it. There's still something to root for.
Well,
There's
it's balanced.
It's balanced. Exactly. Everything is perfectly balanced on this fulcrum of a lighthearted fare.
Yeah.
You know, and it's that is kind of missing in this world.
I think that it's all right. This is a good time to talk about a movie that I just watched last night that I don't want to talk about properly on the podcast because it's not really worthy of it, but The Predator.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Paddington 2, because that's a lighthearted fare that, God damn it, this world needed.
The
and
Predator
it didn't do very well in the box office. Shame on you, people.
Shame on you.
Shame on you.
Is a perfect example of a movie that is improperly balanced.
That's what I've heard.
It does not. It tries so hard to have fun that it's like mandatory fun, right?
Yes, mandatory fun is not fun.
Right. So it's chock full of jokes. Everybody's the funniest motherfucker on the planet in this movie. The villains, the heroes, the ancillary characters, they're all the funniest fuckers on the universe. They all have the greatest quips and jokes in the world. But you're supposed to be watching like an action sci-fi movie. It's like, no, come on, dial it back.
Yeah.
Like root some things, create some actual real characters that you can center the movie around.
Right.
Rather than make everybody a goddamn comedian.
Right.
It just doesn't work. I mean, that Zorro, right? We'll go back and we'll talk about that part of Zorro that the Predator isn't, which I know is a weird comparison, but Anthony Hopkins, his character, the original Zorro, is not a lot of humor in his character. He has some moments in the beginning when he enjoys being Zorro.
And there are ways that he teaches Antonio Banderas in a way that makes us laugh.
Right, they're playful.
But they're not, it does not change the tone of his character.
But yes, exactly. In many ways, he's the straight man. He is the sort of drama.
Yes.
Of this movie. And you need that. It's the balance.
Right.
You need these different types of characters
you have the young
to play
man,
off of each other.
You have the young man who has the zest for life, even though he too has some serious shit to deal with, but he has the zest for life. He is young, he is vibrant, he is what was the word that Catherine Zeta-Jones says when she was asked to
Vigorous?
Vigorous.
Yes.
And Anthony Hopkins is the one at the end of his life. He is his vigor that he once had has led him to this moment that will ultimately end his life. And he's on the opposite end of that string. That's the balance. That's the balance that you're talking about. And again, what's resting in the middle is Catherine Zeta-Jones's character, because they're both kind of
She's
the gravity pulling them together.
Yeah, she's the fulcrum. Absolutely. She's the thing they have in common.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah. God damn, it's a good movie.
Yep, it's good.
Go out to the theater and see this. Right now.
Get in your time machine. Get in your DeLorean, damn it. It's really good. I hadn't seen this movie in maybe 20 years, if I'm being honest, and it did not feel dated at all.
Nope.
It felt just like a really fun movie that I miss, that I now kind of realize that I miss.
It almost is sad when you realize that oh man, where did these movies go? You know, there are some movies that have that serious nature that I wouldn't trade for.
Sure.
Like I still want all of the Marvel movies.
Sure.
But also notice that a lot of those Marvel movies have a personality too. Yep. So, you know, there are stakes, but there's also a personality that you can wrap yourself around.
Those movies are incredibly balanced.
Yes. And, you know, it's what I like to call the new Marvel method. In comic books, the Marvel method was the artist came along and he's working from like a 2-paragraph plot. He draws it. Stan Lee came in, wrote in the dialogue. That was the Marvel method. Now the movies have that. You know, it's like, here's what we have, and we need to find somebody who has balance, you know, that can balance it all. And they, for the most part, have done that well.
The script for Infinity War is a masterpiece.
Yeah.
To be able to chock all of those characters into one movie and tell that story in 2.5 hours is nothing short of astonishing.
Yeah. And we're going to talk a lot more about that because, spoiler alert, it has won 2018 for me. It is the grand champion of 2018.
I will hold my grand champion for that episode. Yeah. So tune in to hear.
Yeah. So you know what? I wish there were more movies like this. I wish there were more movies we could watch like this. Now, I do feel that maybe we have that opportunity in the next couple of weeks as we talk about some very different movies that we haven't really talked about before, some older movies.
Yeah.
With familiar faces. But you know, the next couple of weeks, we've got a special guest that's bringing us some movies.
Yes, indeed. Somebody who I've never seen these movies.
I haven't either. I had never heard of these movies.
I had heard of them from him. You know, he'd always talk about these movies. So we're bringing our buddy Ken on.
Yep.
And he's bringing us 2 movies from his childhood. I love that, right?
Yeah.
Like 2 movies that mean the world to him in his childhood development. And he's bringing them to us, and we're going to watch them with him and talk about them. What are they? The Villain?
The Villain is next week, and the week after that is the Shim Sham.
The Flim Flam Man.
I did that earlier when I was looking for
Shim Sham.
Shim Sham. The Flim Flam Man.
Flim Flam Man. Yeah.
Yes. So the first one has Kirk Douglas and
Margaret.
And
Arnold Schwarzenegger. Yeah.
I'm excited to talk about Arnold Schwarzenegger.
I'm really excited about that movie. That sounds like just an amazing amount of fun.
I watched the clip from that movie when Arnold Schwarzenegger arrives in this town, and you can already see that he is going to be a massive star.
Love it.
Like, you can see he has that charisma already. I mean, now granted, he had already been in movies before, but this was his first like legitimate. He can be an actor.
Yeah.
Not just Hercules.
Right.
You know, and I was like, I don't want to watch anymore. I want to watch. I want to watch.
I want to save it. Save it.
Flim Flam Man's got George C. Scott.
Yep.
So that's going to be fun.
Yep.
So we're going to watch that. Those are the next 2 episodes. We've got we're going to save our episode after that as a little bit of a surprise because it's a little bit of a sequel to one of our favorite movies. Not a sequel to our favorite movie on this podcast, but it's an episode that's going to act as a sequel to one of our favorite personal episodes.
Sort of an anniversary of our favorite episode.
Pretty close. Yeah, it's going to be pretty close. Yeah. So, and then we will round out February talking about our favorites of 2018, some of the good and the bad of 2018.
Yeah.
So we look forward to talking about those things with all of you.
Yes, indeed.
So new episodes every Wednesday, of course.
Every Wednesday.
Every Wednesday. That's a Film Seizure.
Every Wednesday.
Every Monday now you can catch Monster Mondays.
Monster Mondays with Geoff.
With me.
Spend your Monday morning with Geoff.
Yeah, it's probably more like Monday afternoon.
All right, maybe your first coffee after lunch.
Yeah,
spend it with Geoff.
But
you kind of need it like a jolt.
Yeah,
in your Monday afternoon, because let's face it, we all do.
Yeah,
spend what is about 15 minutes.
10 to 15 minutes per episode.
Grab a cup of Joe, or a Diet Coke, or whatever you need to get your motor running after that heavy lunch, and listen to Geoff talk about monsters.
Yeah, and by this point, in time, we're getting into a February theme. I talk about vampires for February.
Oh, nice.
And I think I've really kind of hit my stride there with
Cool.
with the episodes too. So those should be good. Those should be fun, maybe-ish.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. Then on Fridays, every Friday morning, maybe don't do this on your work computer, but go to my website, B-Movie Enema, read my latest complete and total, what would you call it? A
deconstruction
of a movie.
Yeah.
And get a little bit of...
You could probably read it at work. It depends on how cool your work is.
Yeah, I mean, I don't put any boobies or anything
Yeah.
out there. So, I mean...
It's just a whole lot of irreverent language.
Oh, boy, yeah. Irreverence is
That's the name of the game.
World.
That's the name of the
game. I learned that from The Simpsons. Thank you very much. So, anyway, yeah, so that's where you can catch stuff. Where can they follow us on the social medias?
Well, we have a Facebook page, so go there. It's Film Seizure. Everything is Film Seizure. So you look at for Film Seizure Twitter, Film Seizure Instagram, Film Seizure Facebook.
Oh, yeah?
You're gonna find us.
Sweet.
We have an email address you can send us stupid shit at. It's filmseizure@gmail.com.
Yep.
We also have a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
I know you kids love the YouTubes.
Yep.
So you can find us there.
Every Sunday mornings, new episodes go up there. So it's the same episodes that are released on Wednesday. It's just that we put them up there on Sunday mornings.
Yeah.
So spend your Sunday mornings with us if you didn't catch us on the website.
Yeah. Maybe in your jammies.
Oh, yeah. Like with a cup of tea.
Yeah, I like that.
Like a nice warm
like on
cup
a
of tea.
lazy Sunday morning.
Yep. Easy like Sunday morning.
I like it.
I like it too. So until next week when we talk about the villain.
Yeah.
Which looks like a pure freaking joy.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, and I think we needed these kind of joyous movies.
And I'm excited to watch this with Ken.
Yeah.
Because I'm excited to hear about how much these movies meant to him.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So until then, I am Geoff Arbuckle.
I am Jason Oliver, and you have been listening to Film Seizure.
I want to spend my lifetime loving you. That is all in life I ever do. Heroes rise, heroes fall.